All right, let's get that economic butter just absolutely churning and talk about the EIDL grant in terms of when you can expect to actually receive that targeted EIDL advance. Now, I know tons of people have been sitting and waiting. They've applied for the targeted advance program. You've submitted your tax transcripts. It's been that 21-day period, but you've received no communication so far and you're wondering what's going on. So let's talk about the new funding timeline, some questions I asked to a top-level SBA representative on this, and what exactly we can expect from here. So just for a brief overview, with the EIDL Targeted Advance Program, this is bumping up EIDL grants from the CARES Act from that $1,000 per employee mark up to a total of $10,000. And then beyond this, in the most recent stimulus bill that was just passed, we're looking at an additional $5,000 through the Supplemental Targeted EIDL Grant Program, which I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later on. But with this $10,000 Targeted EIDL Grant Portal, as long as you saw a reduction in gross receipts of 30%, you have fewer than 300 employees, and you're in a low income area per the SBA's map, you will be eligible for the $10,000 total advance. How this works is the SBA will reach out to you and send you an email that then brings you to a portal where you can apply. There's no direct link to this portal. It's a unique portal for each and every person, so you'll have to look out in your emails for that. If you have already received that email, chances are you will be approved for this. They are sending out about 100,000 of these per week. I heard that from an SBA representative, just a customer service representative, that they're sending out about 100,000 of those per week. So it's still taking a while to ramp these all out. And then after you apply, the initial guidance under the latest stimulus bill was that you had to wait 21 days and then you can expect to receive funding. While there's many people who are now sitting there, it's been 21 days, 25 days, 28 days, and they haven't yet received funding. Now, there are a select few people who have actually been approved for funding within the last few days for the targeted EIDL advance program. I've seen some screenshots. I'll put one up here. However, this is the very slim minority here, so I had some questions for a top SBA representative as to what exactly is going on. So here are my 4 questions that I asked. Has anyone yet received their targeted EIDL funding up to $10,000? I know people have been approved, but have they actually received it since the December stimulus bill? If so, are there any statistics as to how many people have received this so far? My second question, for the targeted advance, is the funding period still 21 days after applying? Like, is it going to be now more than 21 days, or how exactly does that work? Number 3, is there a time frame as to when the $5,000 supplemental targeted advance program will open up? When can we expect to apply for this thing? How will the application process work exactly? And number 4, certain individuals believe that the supplemental targeted advance program could be open to anyone who received an EIDL grant under the CARES Act. Could you clarify this? Now, this is something that I've seen on YouTube. I'm pretty sure I already knew the answer, but I want some clarification here because I've seen some misinformation saying that this new $5,000 grant program will be open to anyone. And looking at the stimulus bill, it doesn't appear that that's actually going to be the case. So I wanted some clarification from someone who is right there in the thick of it at the top of disaster assistance at the SBA. So I have responses to these. Thank you so much to the SBA for responding so timely to me. I literally just asked these like an hour ago. So that's awesome. Also, if you have any other like in-depth or good questions I should ask for future videos about the EIDL grant program, leave them in the comments below and I will absolutely ask them as long as it hasn't been addressed somewhere. It's a good question. Also, in the description below, make sure you grab your 2 free stocks with Webull. All you have to do is make a $100 deposit. You get 2 completely free stocks up to $2,800. I actually just heard of the first person who got a free Google stock from this worth like $2,000. So check that out if you're at all interested. You don't even have to spend the $100. You can take the $100 back. You get 2 free stocks and I get a free stock because of it too. So you'll be helping out the channel along the way. So let's get into these questions. The first question I asked, has anyone yet received their targeted EIDL funding up to $10,000 since the December stimulus bill? If so, are there any statistics as to how many people have received it so far? And the answer here is yes. People have actually received funding here, but there's a small majority. They say, yes, I cannot share the exact numbers, but we have approved small batches of the targeted EIDL advances for cases where we already had the tax transcript on file. So that's the way that the few people who have been approved so far have had their transcripts on file for their taxes with the SBA. That's how it happened so fast. And this was a suspicion of mine. Is there going to be delays? Because everything having to do with the IRS right now is delayed. I tried calling them yesterday to get an EIN number, and you just literally can't even speak to someone because of tax returns, stimulus payments, all of the child tax credit. All of this is going on at the IRS right now. They're completely delayed. So getting the tax transcripts is going to cause even more delays. So they said there's small batches of targeted EIDL advances for cases where they already had the tax transcript on file, likely because it was obtained as part of the loan process. We recently started receiving the tax transcripts directly from the IRS on new requests specifically for the targeted EIDL advance application, so the approvals will start to increase in greater numbers next week. So if you were in that first round of people who applied for the targeted EIDL advance, it's running on close to 30 days now. You can expect some action in next week or the week after that per the SBA, now that things are finally starting to get turning here. So that's confirmation. Certain people have been funded, and more will be funded very shortly. And additional people should still be receiving the emails as to the portal where you can apply. Now, the second question. For the targeted advance, is the funding period still 21 days after applying to expect to receive funding? Or has this been extended? I mean, there's been a lot of slowdowns with the IRS. Is it longer than 21 days? I don't think people, obviously sooner the better, but we'd rather them say 50 days and then it takes, 30 days than say 21 days and it takes 30 days. You know what I'm trying to get at. Expectations. The answer here, that was the requirement established by the Economic Aid Act, that stimulus bill in December. And we expect that most targeted EIDL advances will be processed within 21 days, but the earliest applications submitted are taking longer. It's been more than 21 days for most people who have already applied. The reason for the delay on the earliest files submitted is that we're still finalizing our internal processes that are new to this round of advances, such as electronically signing the IRS Form 4506T, collecting the tax transcripts from the IRS, and uploading the data to match against the economic loss calculation, and checking the Treasury do not pay list prior to disbursement. Something I wanted to note about that tax transcript 4506T, that goes off of your 2019 tax return. I received a question about this. If your 2020 tax return is still processing, not an issue. But if you haven't filed for 2019, you're going to want to file for your 2019 taxes and then do that 4506T, because they're going to base part of your eligibility off of that. So after this first round, we can probably expect like a month from now, then it'll be back to that normal 21-day funding period, again, per the SBA. My third question, is there a time frame as to when the $5,000 supplemental targeted advance program will open up? When can we expect that $5,000 program to open up? And they said, not yet, there's no timeline yet, but we expect that it will follow a similar process to the targeted EIDL advance, where potentially eligible applicants will be invited to the portal to complete the targeted EIDL advance application for the additional $5,000. If a business already completed the targeted EIDL advance application, they may be re-invited to the portal to request the supplemental payment of $5,000. So it sounded like it will very likely be the same portal that you logged in for the $10,000 targeted EIDL advance. And there'll be some kind of certification checkbox, additional application within that portal for the $5,000. If they are eligible, again, this is still in the planning stages, and we are not prepared to make an announcement yet on when the supplemental targeted EIDL advance will begin. I'm not going to expect any major action there for at least a month to potentially 5 to 6 weeks. Now, my last question. Certain individuals believe that the Supplemental Targeted Advance Program will be open to anyone who received an EIDL grant under the CARES Act. Could you clarify this? Because there's a lot of misinformation out here. It says the Supplemental Targeted EIDL Advance eligibility requirements are, number one, the business is located in a low-income community. Number two, greater than a 50% economic loss. Number three, has 10 or fewer employees. It's nearly identical to the targeted EIDL advance eligibility requirements, the $10,000 advance, except the economic loss thresholds increase from 30% to 50%, and the employee threshold goes from 300 down to 10. The low income community eligibility requirement is still in place, and you use that SBA map for the eligibility requirement there. And then they ended off with just a quick note. Anyone who has already received the invite for the targeted EIDL advance is likely in a low-income community and meets this eligibility requirement based on the primary business address that the SBA has on record. So if you've already received that email, you can at least check that box, very likely anyways. If you received an invite already, then we strongly encourage you to apply. You not only have the potential to receive the full $10,000 for the targeted EIDL advance, or the difference between what you already received, $1,000 to $10,000, $2,000 to $10,000. But you could also receive that additional $5,000 through the Supplemental EIDL Advance program. The Supplemental $5,000 is not yet available, but completing the targeted EIDL Advance application will be likely a required step in obtaining the Supplemental $5,000. So there you have it. The SBA has sent out a few of these targeted $10,000 advances. We can expect much more of these in the next week or two. And after that, it'll be rolling out with a normal 21-day waiting period. And we are not 100% sure yet as to when the $5,000 EIDL grant program, the top up to $15,000 in total, will be completely open, but they're in the planning stages. And you bet that as soon as the SBA has an official date for this, I will be making a video on it. So make sure you are subscribed and like this video and share it with anyone who you think could benefit from information on the EIDL grant program. So I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a profitable day.